Well, President Biden just came out and said that this extreme, his word, Texas abortion ban will, quote, significantly impair women's access to health care. He's right. He's right. It's a big deal. And it's part of a multi-pronged, basically, attack on our society, on the idea of an egalitarian, progressive society where everybody's in, nobody's out, where we have each other's backs, we look out for each other, we take care of the weak and the helpless among us, as well as the rich and powerful. It's part of this all-out war on this. In Texas, you've got the governor saying, in fact, actually, the legislature passing a law saying that it's illegal for a school district to require that their kids wear masks to avoid transmitting a virus. And as a consequence, now here in Waco, or near Waco, this is the McLennan County School District just outside of Waco, Texas. 6th grade social studies teacher Natalia Chancellor passed away on Saturday. 7th grade social studies teacher David McCormick died on August 24th. Both of them with COVID-19. 2 teachers, 1 school, 2 dead teachers in 1 school. So they just closed the school for a week. This is part of a whole larger fabric. And the whole larger fabric has to do with a series of scams and cons that the Republican Party has been running on people forever, for at least throughout my lifetime. Back in the and this is the subject of my rant today over at HartmannReport.com. The headline: Ron Johnson revealed the secret GOP ruthless con to the world. And, you know, the most recent one, the one that Ron Johnson revealed, and I started out by talking about Lauren Windsor. Lauren has been a guest on this program. She runs a website as basically a reporter. Used to be with the Young Turks. She's got, you know, her own gig now. And disclosure, I've supported her, you know, like many journalists. You know, they have a GoFundMe page or something like that, and I've supported her work in the past. She got Ron Johnson. She also has a site, you know, outing the whole Project Veritas people. She got Ron Johnson, the Republican senator from Wisconsin, on camera saying Trump didn't win Wisconsin. And the reason why Trump didn't win Wisconsin was because there were 50,000 Republican voters who voted for other Republicans on the ballot, but didn't want to vote for Donald Trump. He just disgusted enough people that, you know, he lost by 20-some-odd thousand votes in Wisconsin, and then there was that 50,000 people who said, you know, I'm going to vote for the Libertarian candidate instead. Or maybe even vote for Joe Biden. But they weren't going to vote for Donald Trump. So Ron Johnson told the truth, and I'm guessing he's catching hell for it today. But the reason why I say this is a con is because they are publicly saying, oh, no, Trump didn't lose Wisconsin, Trump didn't lose Arizona, Trump didn't lose Georgia, Trump didn't lose Michigan or Pennsylvania. Those were all stolen. Don't you know? It was voter fraud. And why are they saying that? Well, Trump is saying that, obviously, because he wants to be back in the White House, where he has basically immunity from prosecution. For Trump, it's all about saving his skin. He doesn't want to have to, you know, move to Saudi Arabia and get a palace and a harem like Idi Amin did and live out the rest of his life, you know, outside the United States. Although I guarantee you that's on his list of possibilities. So what it's really about, though, is not protecting Donald Trump or maintaining, you know, the grand memory of, you know, his orangeness. No, what it's really about is having a rationalization, an excuse, a reason, or a stated reason anyway, not a legitimate reason, but a reason to make it harder for people to vote, particularly people who are low-income people, people who are very, you know, who are poor people, people who are members of particular minority groups, specifically blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans. Make it more difficult for people who are who work hourly jobs to vote, people more inclined to want to have a union, for example, than for people who work salaried jobs. You know, no mail-in voting means you've got to take time off work to go to vote, which means that you're going to lose some income. So you know, a lot of people just don't vote. So they're trying to make it harder to vote in state after, and they have. I mean, 18 states now have passed these restrictive laws, making it harder and harder and harder for people to vote, limiting the hours, limiting the times, making it far more difficult to vote by mail, which, by the way, we've been doing for 20 years here in Oregon without a whiff of scandal. It is so convenient. We have one of the highest voter participation rates in the nation. We're right up there with the rest of the developed world that also largely votes by mail. But so they're running a scam. They're saying, oh, there was voter fraud, therefore we need to make it harder to vote. Now, why are they having to run that scam? Well, because they've hit the limits of what they can do with their red state strategy. You know, you'll recall the examples I used in my article are, as I recall, Wyoming and Idaho. Wyoming and Idaho, both states voted for FDR 3 times. They voted for Harry Truman. These are all Democrats. Voted for Lyndon Johnson. Both those states. Those states have 2 senators each. That's 4 senators. Well, if you're a right-winger and you want to you want to gain control of the United States Senate, you don't go after California. California only has 2 senators, and it's got 35, 40 million people, whatever, you know, it's some huge number of people. And it's very expensive. But hey, in Wyoming, there's only 800,000 people in Wyoming. You buy up some radio stations, you buy some TV stations, you put a think tank on the ground, you buy up the local newspapers, and pretty soon you flip the state red. And they have done this since the 1970s. I mean, this is what came out of the Powell memo. And they've been going low population state after low population state after low population state, flipping them red, using mostly talk radio as their principal vehicle, but also, you know, local newspaper, local news, now increasingly television stations. But they've hit the limits of that because people are figuring out what a con this is. You know, there's 41 million Americans who are represented by Democrats in the Senate. 41 million more Americans are represented by Democrats in the Senate than are represented by Republicans. And yet Democrats have equal power with Republicans. So you've got that. You've got the gerrymandering thing where, like in North Carolina, the vote Democrats, Republicans for House of Representatives is roughly 50-50. So they send 10 Republicans to the House and 3 Democrats. Same thing in Wisconsin, same thing in Michigan, same thing in Pennsylvania. States where it has been so heavily gerrymandered that even though the majority of Americans are voting for Democrats to go to the U.S. House of Representatives, Democrats control the House by what? 5, 6, 7 votes, just a handful of votes. And many of them, as we're finding out with, you know, people like Kurt Schrader here in Oregon, are not reliable Democrats. You can't trust them to look out for the interests of working people. So, you know, here we are. And my point is that this scam is not the only scam that the GOP has run. They used to run this back in the 50s. It was called the communism scam. Everybody in the Republican Party, I mean, Joe McCarthy cranked it up, right? I have here the names of 200 communists working in the State Department and the Army. And really what was behind it, the reason why, you know, Fred Koch and his other right-wing, you know, billionaire buddies, he wasn't quite a billionaire back then, but, you know, were funding the John Birch Society and all these anti-communist efforts, was because they didn't want America to have a strong social safety net because it would cause their taxes to go up. That's what it comes down to. And so we got to stop communism. Food stamps, that's communism. Medicaid, that's communism. Ronald Reagan recorded a 33 LP album, a record, back in the 1960s, warning that Medicare was going to be the gateway drug to communism in the United States. And he called it socialism. The socialist Medicare program. Someday we will look back on when men were free. If this thing passes. And what he was really saying is we don't want a country with a strong social safety net because that means somebody has to pay for those welfare programs. Somebody has to pay for those food stamps. Somebody has to pay for that subsidized housing. And who has the money? The billionaires. And the billionaires don't want to pay it. It's all about keeping taxes low on rich people. And they've been enormously successful at running these scams. Now they've got this voting scam. Before it was the communism scam. Lately, they've been, ever since 1973, they've been running the oh my God, we're worried about the lives of unborn children scam, when as soon as those kids are born, it's like, what? Expand Medicaid to help them out? Screw that. So it's the we're concerned about life scam. It's all the Republicans know how to do is run scams.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
For 18 years on this program, I've been running this contest. If you can name one piece of legislation put together by Republicans, passed by Republicans, that benefits the average person, you win.